Hey everyone, welcome to what do we got? Episode 450, the All Dolphins podcast for Monday, January 13th, 2025. Joined again by Chris Perkins from the Southwest Sun Sentinel. It's Poop and Perk. How are you, Perk?
I'm good, man. Playoffs have started, baby. Dolphins aren't in it, but hey, better luck next year, right? As we say often around here.
yeah. I saw a graphic today that said I think since 2002, only the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets have fewer than the Dolphins' 4 playoff appearances, which is depressing. And those 4 for the Dolphins: 2008, 2016, 22, and 23. We finally got a good game on Sunday night, and we're going to touch upon those games as they pertain to the Dolphins because we always try to keep a Dolphin slant. This is our first show, our first podcast since the big news of Friday afternoon, because of course the Dolphins would make those announcements after I finished taping the pod Friday with Ken Levica. Dolphins made a couple of coaching changes, and I know Dolphin fans, I know you're heartbroken about this, but Perk and I are going to try to walk you off a ledge. It's okay. It's going to be fine. Dolphins no longer will have Danny Crossman as special teams coach. And I see I got to smile. I'm making myself laugh, but never happy to see somebody lose his job. But this is I joke because I know this is somebody who had been on the fans' crosshairs for long time. The other one was Wes Welker. Yep. Perk, your thoughts on the moves first of all?
Well, Crossman, that was that probably made fans happy. I'm trying to get my numbers right in my head. I don't have the story up in front of me. Rick Goslin, the former Dallas Morning News longtime NFL writer, does a special teams ranking every year. Let me see if I've got this right, Poop. Last year, the Dolphins were 31. In 2022, they were 27. In 2020, I think they were number 20. And then I think in 20, I think, 2023, 31, 27, 20, and they were number 7 in Crossman's second year, right?
Which was 2020 when Jason Sanders went nuts and had that all-pro year.
Yes. So now that I've totally botched that, everybody's all confused, including me. As I wrote, I think the low point for the special teams under Crossman was the infamous butt punt against Buffalo, where Thomas Morstead punts it into Trent Sherfield's backside. It goes out of bounds. It reduces the score to 21 to 19, right, which was the final in like the last 2 minutes of the game. The high point would be the Mountaineers shot in his first year, 2019, where punter Matt Hawk, they have a fake field goal, I believe, at the 1 yard line. Punter Matt Hawk throws a pass to Jason Sanders, the kicker, which I believe is the only successful pass between a punter to a kicker in NFL history, which I got from a story written by Alan Poupart on Dolphins.com once upon a time. But I think those were the highlights. And then with Wes Welker, look, I don't know how much the performance of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle had to do with him getting fired. Obviously, they couldn't get open this season. They couldn't solve the 2 deep safety thing. They couldn't fight the jams at the line of scrimmage. Last year, Tyreek has 12 drops, which was tied for second, I believe, or second most. This year, Waddle had 8 drops, which I think was tied for 7th or 8th most in the league. I don't know if it was a condition of Tyreek's that if I return happy, I want Wes Welker out of here. I don't know because Tyreek hasn't said anything, but that's how I view them. Welker, I'm not sure. Crossman, I thought, that was inevitable.
Except here's the thing with Crossman is, and in those, by the way, the Rick Goslin rankings that Perk referenced, he basically analyzes 22 different statistical special teams categories and then ranks them, each team in all of those, and then adds them up. And so in Danny Crossman's first 5 seasons with the Dolphins, they finished in the top 10 once, and then they were like 24th or worse in the bottom 4th every other year. And here's what I would tell you is, to me, I was shocked that he came back this year And I would tell you that down the stretch this season, the special teams actually were very good.
They were.
So the timing to me is maybe a little bit weird because we had Malik Washington with 2 very good kickoff returns against the Jets, including one that helped the Dolphins send the game to overtime. Had another one at the Jets as well. Jason Sanders couldn't miss all year, especially down the stretch.
Yeah.
And the punt coverage was very good. And it was the first time since 2021 that they didn't give up a kick return for a touchdown. So the timing was weird. If he was going to be fired, that should have been last year when we asked him at the combine, why did you keep Danny Crossman? And
let me say this: is it possible that Crossman is a sacrificial lamb? Okay.
Okay.
I'll say this also, that it's been theorized, and I believe it, that Crossman is somebody who Mike McDaniel leaned on for general football knowledge, and there was a quote to that effect in the statement of, I thank Danny for his contributions, something along those lines. So that might be part of the reason that that Crossman stayed, because I do believe and had heard that he was kind of a trusted associate of Mike McDaniel, kind of in football matters. So I think that quote is in there, right? Something about thank you to Danny for the. Yeah.
Funny you should mention that, because I'm going to read the quote right now. This is a statement from Mike McDaniel. I am grateful for Danny's contributions and dedication to the Dolphins over the course of many seasons, as well as the numerous ways he helped me as a head coach. So,
there you go.
Timing was strange. I would say that. As far as Wes Welker is concerned, is it possible if I were to spitball a possible reason beyond performance that maybe it was Welker was viewed as somebody being unable to rein in Tyreek and everything that is Tyreek-like, and we don't mean performance on the field. We mean dealing with maybe. By the way, since you wrote several times on SunSentinel.com, very well, I might add, that somebody needed to talk to Tyreek about chill out with the social media stuff, focus on your work on the field. Perhaps Mike McDaniel assigned Wes Welker to that role at some point in the season, and clearly it didn't work because Tyreek never stopped trolling. Again, spitballing.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the quote was, I also want to thank Wes for his investment here. So I guess Wes paid money for the Dolphins to be on the coaching staff.
He did just get a bunch of new investors. I mean,
Interesting choice of words here.
Yeah.
This was not a decision I came to lightly, but as I have evaluated this season in areas where we must improve, I believe that change is needed, and I'm motivated to do what is best for the team as we move forward. Because here's the thing. In terms of the performance of the wide receivers, it wasn't great. But it was also coupled with issues everywhere else on offense. And then can we also not pretend that the Dolphins had an all-star cast at wide receiver, because beyond Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you had basically a revolving door, and that's Robbie Chosen, Eric Ezukama, D. Eskridge, River Craycraft, Braxton Berrios, who
Trent Sherfield.
No, Trent Sherfield was a couple of years ago.
But
no, but I'm talking about this year.
Oh, this year, yeah.
I mean, not exactly a who's who when your third most dependable wide receiver becomes your rookie 6th round pick. So I don't know that we can pin the performance of the wide receivers on Wes Welker too much.
No, he's not. He's never had anybody under Mike McDaniel. He's never had anybody aside from Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. And I will say this also, that I've heard the theory of, maybe he couldn't control Tyreek. That should be Mike McDaniel's job. Tyreek is at that level where it's not up to Frank Smith. It's not up to Wes Welker. It's up to Mike McDaniel. Like Jalen Waddle and Tua and Tyreek are up to Mike McDaniel. Position coaches and offensive coordinator can handle, Mostert and Achane and Jonnu and Teron but the 3 special ones, that they belong to Mike McDaniel. That's how I view this team. That's how they got paid, right? I mean, that's how the offense is kind of laid out, that it's these 3 guys on the field in Mike McDaniel's genius mind to make it work. he's more responsible than Wes Welker. To me, he should be. That should be the case moving forward if it's not now.
Okay. And yeah, no, without question. But Mike McDaniel's not going to fire himself for not
Correct.
being able to rein in Tyreek. So,
yeah.
And by the way, there was one wide receiver I failed to mention, and how can I forget, considering he was the most talked about wide receiver on the team who did nothing,
Yes.
and that, of course, was Odell Beckham Jr.,
Yep.
who, incidentally, in case you guys hadn't noticed, was never signed by another team.
Yep. They could never find. Chase Claypool. You look at all these guys that they've churned through. Braxton Berrios and River Craycraft might have been the most dependable, right? I guess Sherfield was dependable for the 1 year. I think he was number 3 in receiving, actually. But Gesicki, the tight end, they never had anybody. I shouldn't bring up Gesicki because we're talking about Wes Welker. But they never had a receiver after Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, which I don't feel sorry for Wes Welker, but it raised the degree of difficulty for his job.
No, correct. So again, I don't know if I want to use the word he was a scapegoat, but
yeah.
Something
had to change on that coaching staff, right? You couldn't bring Greer and McDaniel and all the coaches back. That something had to change.
Okay, before I move on to the other coaches who might be on the move, and where things stand there, somebody brought up the idea, and I would love the idea. I just don't think it's very realistic. And Perk, tell me I'm wrong, but you're always free to tell me I'm wrong. It's just that I'm never wrong. I'm sorry. I kid.
Rarely. Well, don't say never now. Right. Let's be fair here.
Okay, I have to show a little bit of modesty, right? Yes, no, guys, in case you don't know, I kid. I'm wrong all the time, but I try to tend to base my opinions on facts, and they're my opinions. Doesn't mean that it's gospel and all that. So that out of the way, the idea of Darren Rizzi returning to the Dolphins as special teams coach, yes, please. I just don't see it as being very realistic because the guy interviewed for the head coaching job here once upon a time before they gave the job to Brian Flores. The idea of coaches returning to a place where they were in a position to become head coach and were bypassed, that happens. Van Joseph, in fact, was fired as head coach with the Broncos, went back to the Broncos. That's rare. And on top of that, he's also interviewed for a couple of head coaching positions, I know, with the Saints and with the Jets. He's not going to be lacking for offers if he doesn't become a head coach to be the special teams coordinator somewhere with the title of assistant/associate head coach, one of those two. And the Dolphins already have 2 of those with, correct me if I'm wrong, if my memory's failing me here, Eric Stootsville and John Embry. So again, great idea. Love it. Love Rizzi. Great coach. And by the way, when the Dolphins had him as their special teams coordinator, they were usually in the top 10 more often than not in those Rick Gosselin rankings. I just don't see it happening personally.
Yeah, I don't either. And I'll go a couple of ways on this. Rizzi is very highly regarded in NFL circles. He was one of the instrumental voices in the new kickoff rules. So he could, if he doesn't get a successful offer or what he considers a good offer, maybe there's a position for him upstairs in the league office for a couple of years in some kind of supervisory role, and then he can find the job that he wants as a special teams coordinator, possibly, maybe, I don't know. But he's very highly regarded, so I just thought I'd throw that in. As far as being on the staff with Mike McDaniel, I admit I've been deficient. I have not looked at McDaniel's past to see where his other, I know who was with him in Denver. He's had like 22 stops in the NFL. So He could have coached with anybody, any other special teams coordinators. But I haven't checked to see who was with him in San Francisco. Haven't checked to see, in Houston and Washington. So I don't know. That's often a place that you look first when you're talking about, right, the connections that build, the ties that bind. The other thing is, I don't know if Rizzi would be a McDaniel yes man. And I don't know if McDaniel wants a yes man. I would think that he does. But I would think Mike McDaniel wouldn't want anybody to butt heads with him. But on the other hand, McDaniel's not involved in special teams. So I don't know. I don't know how that would work. I don't know the dynamic, if they agree philosophically, strategically, as far as player empowerment. I don't know if there would be clashes on those levels. But as you say, all things being equal, yes, please bring Darren Rizzi in here. Please, please, please bring Darren Rizzi in here.
No, I agree. And then beyond that, not that it should matter to any fan, he's a gem of a human being, and he's great with the media. So, but again, that shouldn't matter to fans. Fans should care about, is he good at his job? And as far as wide receiver coach who they might get, it's not a coordinator position. So, we can do the research. I've been deficient as well as you have because we're slackers. Which is like in the big city.
You know what's funny, Poop, is that, like, to me, this job, there's kind of a rhythm to it. And so right now, this week, we're finishing up with the 2024 season. Pretty soon, you shift into draft mode, right? Because the Senior Bowl is coming up. And then after that, you shift into free agency mode because it's free agency. And then you shift back into draft mode. So, but I haven't shifted gears yet. I'm still unwinding from 2024. So, I haven't looked at like who's available for the Dolphins in free agency and the draft as assistant coaches. I'm sorry. I will probably start that tonight or tomorrow as I kind of look ahead to Senior Bowl. But I don't know who the wide receiver coaches are in Mike McDaniel's past yet. I haven't started any of that. Sorry, viewers. Sorry.
Okay. Well, send me the info when you gather it.
Right. Exactly.
No, right now it should be coaching staff changes time because, and again, as we mentioned before last week, there are two other Dolphin assistants who are interviewing for positions elsewhere. Anthony Weaver has interviewed for the head coaching positions with the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. Based on all the reporting that's out there, it doesn't sound like he's a front runner for any of those openings. Now the Dallas Cowboys job has opened, and who knows what kind of circus that's going to create. And if God forbid it winds up being Deion Sanders who gets that job, holy moly, if we think the Cowboys, as I do, suck up too much oxygen as it is, oh man, might as well pencil them in for primetime every single, no pun intended, for every single solitary week of the 2025 season.
By the way, that's not a good job. And I hope if they interview Anthony Weaver, I hope he doesn't take it because Jerry he just dominates. He's your GM. I mean, my goodness, he's your GM. Your chances of success are so limited in that job. My hat is off to Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett and all the other people who have stepped into that circus. But wow, that's not a good job. You're not setting yourself up for success.
No, I agree. And it also requires somebody without a big ego to be able to handle that job. Because if you're somebody who's got a big ego, and this is Deion Sanders would be a great fit then,
Perfect.
It doesn't have a big ego.
Right.
Gigantic maybe, but big no.
As we all know, I was living in Dallas when they united before, when Jerry got them from San Francisco to play for the Cowboys. They would be, that's a match made in heaven on many, many levels. Deion could handle Jerry.
Yeah. I mean, part of me would be intrigued by the idea, but again, like I said, to me, the Cowboys suck up too much oxygen as it is.
ESPN would become the Dallas Cowboys network.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. Then going back to the Dolphins, the other assistant, in case you weren't listening on the day I said it, or if I didn't say it, and for some reason I'm remembering that I did say it, Darrell Bevel interviewed for the offensive coordinator position with the Cleveland Browns. He spent 4 years working with Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota more than a decade ago. That would be the connection there. But the Browns are interviewing a whole ton of people. Good news for the Browns. They're not saddled with Deshaun Watson for the foreseeable future. It seems that a setback with his Achilles injury. Looks like he might be out for the entire 2025 season. Okay, let's move on to wildcard weekend. Anything stuck out to you, Perk, particularly if we're looking at it from a Dolphins vantage point?
I'm not going to go to the quarterback thing and say, well, look at the quarterbacks who won. I like the running back thing. I like the home field thing. The home field thing is probably the biggest thing to me, is that it just wraps into so many Dolphins deficiencies that you can't get the home field advantage because you can't beat the good teams, and you can't win on the road, and all this kind of stuff. You've got to get a home field playoff game for that first round, Dolphins. You've got to do that. That's probably what 4-1 was the record of home teams, I think, or something like that. Is that yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably the one thing that stood out to me most, as far, and then the running backs who were acquired did a very nice job also.
Yeah, and completely unrelated to the Dolphins, but major hat tip to Jaden Daniels, the poise he showed as a rookie.
Yep.
On the road. But then again, that's what he did the entire season. I mean, I think we could say the Commanders hit on that pick. I know there are a segment of Dolphin fans who took great delight in watching the Chargers and Justin Herbert lay an egg.
Yeah.
And God forbid I made one comment talking about like how he's playing poorly, and all of a sudden it became a whole Tua discussion because, of course, it's got nothing to do with Tua. Because as it stands right now, and I may have tweeted this today, or I wrote it in the story I wrote on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. The quarterbacks from the 2020 class right now, Jordan Love had a really bad day at the office. Justin Herbert sucked. Joe Burrow out of the playoffs. Tua's out of the playoffs. And Jalen Hurts had a so-so game, but he's also, again, still playing. To me, I don't think he's as good as the other four, actually. I don't know. I don't know where I put it, but Jalen Hurts is a weird dude. Is a tough eval for me because that offensive line is so damn good, and their defense is so damn good as well. So, and as far as the 2020 quarterbacks are concerned, back to that, if I look strictly at the 4 first-round picks, I think it's pretty obvious, no duh, that Burrow is clearly, and I mean clearly, at the top. He's yep. At the upper echelon with Allen, Lamar, and Patrick Mahomes. And then the other 3 right now are good quarterbacks who have had great moments, all of whom right now are carrying a question mark. But what my biggest takeaway was Vic Fangio in that Philadelphia defense. And in fact, I just had Tommy from Hialeah, who's a very loyal dude, who just, I guess, never read the story I wrote, immediately said better players, because the story is about how Vic Fangio transformed that Philly defense.
Yep.
Clearly, you're missing a couple. I mean, I'm going to reveal too much. Read the story on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Yeah, no, it's not strictly because he has better players. It's because maybe the Eagles embraced his approach more than the Dolphins. In fact, their linebacker, I'm going to give you this one nugget. Their all-pro linebacker, Zach Bond. Oh, see, he's got an all-pro linebacker. Yep. The dude who had never played more than an average of 20 snaps per game on defense in his first 4 years in the NFL is your all-pro linebacker. So don't come and tell me don't look at the talent he inherited. He's got 2. I'm ruining my story. Still read it, no matter what. I'm giving you stuff here. Okay, they're starting 2 rookies in the secondary. Do you remember when one of the talking points last year was, no, I think Fangio just doesn't like playing rookies.
Right.
Yes, he does. Maybe he just doesn't like playing Cam Smith because Cam Smith wasn't honed in on the details, which goes again to the old lack of professionalism as an issue for the Dolphins. And the fact that some of their players who did not like and complain about Vic Fangio's and his grumpy old man ways, which as a fellow grumpy old man respected, maybe it's a Dolphin problem, not a Vic Fangio problem.
I agree. And look, this is a team that's always talking about how good it is. And then when they don't win, it's, well, we didn't have such and such. It's like you can't have it both ways, right? I mean, and so that I think that's what happens so often with the Dolphins, is that they want to have it both ways, and it's just not going to work. So I like Vic Fangio, just like you. I was a big fan of his. I believe what he said over what the players said. And so this is what you're seeing out here as a result, as you say, on one of the things that we see on Wild Card Weekend that pertains to the Dolphins is sometimes you've got to listen to other people, like as players, is what I'm saying. You don't know it all. You might not like what Vic Fangio is telling you, but the man has some football knowledge. He's got some football wisdom. Maybe you should have listened to him.
Yep. No, without question. Something else that stuck out to me, actually, that I didn't mention in the story that I wrote, that I'm saving as an exclusive podcast exclusive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like that, actually.
I always like these. Yeah.
No, just thought about that in my head. The Dolphins loss at Houston, where the offense was completely manhandled, maybe doesn't look quite as bad now after what the Houston defense did against the Chargers. And it wasn't just that Justin Herbert had a really bad day at the office. That defense was pretty damn impressive. That secondary with Lassiter, Derek Stingley Jr., who was a hell of a cornerback.
Yep.
And then those two studs up front. And then somebody brought up, and very, very good, I think it was the ESPN reporter, DJ, I believe his name is, I apologize, that he made the point that this is nothing new. Houston produced Josh Allen's probably his worst performance of the season, and they did that, I'm trying to remember the other ones, with a couple of other quarterbacks. So this Houston defense, again, is no joke. And this is where, and I'm not using it as an excuse because I don't want to do that, but the Dolphins in that game had to play Patrick Paul and Jackson Carman at tackle, and they struggled offensively. The pass pro, while not horrible, wasn't good. There were some breakdowns, but again, this is a loss that doesn't look nearly as bad as it did when it happened in Week 15. Conversely, the loss against Green Bay looks worse, understanding that the Packers all of a sudden started dropping like flies as that game went on yesterday.
Yep, and I didn't think the Rams looked that great, but you
Rams
know,
haven't played yet.
I don't think they will look that great tonight. I know against Minnesota. I misspoke. The teams that the Dolphins played that were playoff teams, or that are playoff teams, I don't think that there were any surprises. Houston really turned it on from the 6-minute mark of the second quarter. For the rest of the game. I mean, they just absolutely turned it on and were a different team. I was very impressed by that, but I don't think that anything that I saw made me think anything differently of the Dolphins. The one thing that does occur to me with the Dolphins is you need more than one way to win. And we've been saying this for a long time that, yes, sometimes the defense can keep you in the game like against Houston, but can it win you that one game? Can it win you that? Can special teams win you that one game? We've seen Jason Sanders can do that, but the defense can't do it. And offensively, it's like if you don't do it with that long passing game, can Jonnu win you a game? Can Achane win you a game? You just can't count on it. And so to me, the Dolphins just need more ways to win you the game. And when you look at the defense, can the edge rushers take charge? Can Jalen Ramsey in the secondary take charge? Offensively, right? Can the short passing game take charge? Can Jonnu open stuff up for Tyreek in the running? When you talk complementary football, it's not only offense helping defense, helping special teams, it's the short run game helping the intermediate passing game and that kind of stuff. The edge rushers helping the pass defense. And I'd like to see a little bit more of that. I think a lot of these playoff teams can do more of that than the Dolphins can do.
Yep. No, I agree. And then the other thing for me was, it's just, again, I'm not exactly making a great revelation here, is the AFC is going to be a problem for a while for any team to get near the top with those complete studs over there. Because if you watch Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I mean, holy moly. It's like, it's borderline criminal that one of those two guys are not going to be the MVP. And it's like, I don't like it. It's a wimpy way out. And based on the way the voting is, the statistical chances of it happening are very, very small. But to me, if it one of those where if they did co-MVPs, personally, from a journalist standpoint, I'd say that's a perfect result. I like it because those guys, both of them, are completely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
As you and I discussed, the fact that Lamar has Derrick Henry in the backfield to me would be the deal breaker to me to give it to Josh Allen. But they're both ridiculous, and they're not old. It's not like they're fading out of you anytime soon. And Patrick Mahomes, and the thing with Patrick Mahomes, I encourage everyone to watch because it's very easy to look at the big stats and go, wow, his passer rating's bad, and the Chiefs' offense wasn't great. Look at his third down passer rating, and it's like, you need a clutch play. That team is always, and Mahomes always delivering. It's almost like they're playing possum like the entire game. Okay, guys, it's time to what up. I hold out hope that the Texans, and I'm a big Texans fans this week, I hold out hope that they can take care of them so we don't have to see the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game for the seventh year in a row, but not overly confident about that one.
Yeah, and you know what? And the Chiefs are one of those teams where, within the complementary football, offense helping defense, defense helping special teams. This is a team that won the Super Bowl with defense last year. And Chris Jones and that defensive front last year could help L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie, and McDuffie could help the defensive front. You had good linebackers. Your offense. Look, your receivers were dropping the passes that Patrick Mahomes threw to them early in the season. You found some semblance of a running game, and then late in the season, these guys start catching passes, and now you're unstoppable because you've got the pass rush and you've got the pass defense, and you've got Mahomes who always makes timely plays, as you said. Running game was good enough. It could do, it could get you a 3rd and 1 or whatever, and that they just have different things, different elements within the three major units. Harrison Butker, they just have different things that they can do. I want to see again the Dolphins develop that. Again, the short passing game helps out the short yardage running game, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I was looking, if my eyes were looking up as I'm looking at my other screen here, that back to the Chiefs, one quick note of encouragement as it pertains to the Dolphins, where I think we all agree that one of their big needs is upgrading the guard position. If we remember after the Super Bowl of the 2020 season, when Patrick Mahomes was basically hounded the entire night by the Buccaneers, the Chiefs set out to redo their offensive line. They really stocked up in the middle of the offensive line. They drafted Creed Humphrey in the second round. You got Trey Smith in the 6th round. Boom. 2 immediate starters. I mean, nailing a guy who's like a really, really good player. Trey Smith in the 6th round was just a complete fluke or stroke of genius or whatever. And then they signed Joe Thuney away from the Patriots in free agency. And voila, you have maybe one of the top 3 interior offensive line in the NFL. One off season. So it can be done. I don't know that the Dolphins are going to have that kind of success, particularly since, yes, I'm going to say it, their track record of drafting off interior offensive linemen, not exactly great.
No. Hey, speaking of offense, trivia question for you. Who had the number 1 offense in the league this year?
I believe it was the Baltimore Ravens, but I can look it up real quick.
It was the Ravens. I was just seeing if you knew, because my contention, I had never heard that thing bandied about so proudly until the Dolphins won it last year. I mean, they carried it like it was the Lombardi Trophy. And I just don't know how many people keep up with it, how many people knew who was number 1 in 2018 or 2020 or 2022. We know 2023, but yeah, I just that whole thing with the number 1 offense still really, and then the contract extensions that followed just really gets me.
It irks you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say it pisses me off, but
Oh, that's good. We have an irked perk.
There we go. Yeah,
I stay up at night coming up with those. Let me see. Irked perk. That sounds good. We'll use it at some point.
Yeah, as if there's anything else that needs me to bring me closer to Vic Fangio, right? That's
That's
the
a good
grumpy
point.
old man.
And by the way, yes, I have. By the way, for those who are on social media talking about my man crushes, I think I've lost track of how many I have. Justin Herbert's a man crush. Josh Allen's a man crush. Lamar Jackson's a man crush. And please make sure you have Vic Fangio on the list because he's a legit man crush.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to wrap it up. And we haven't touched upon Tyreek Hill because I don't know that there's anything to say. He's radio silent on social media, which to me is a little no, because he could squash the whole thing right now. He literally could put out a tweet saying, in case there was any mystery, I love the Dolphins. I want to stay here.
Oh, this is interesting. Would you believe it? Here's another show. Here's another show.
That's a good point. That's a good point. What's the value of him saying it? Because if we don't know it's true. That's an excellent point. On the next episode of the All Dolphins podcast, we'll examine the question of whether we should believe anything.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, that's going to wrap it up. Perk, who you got tonight, Monday night, Minnesota or the Rams?
I'm going Minnesota, baby. I'm going with the better team.
Okay. And I went, I've missed two already. I went Rams because I still don't have a major level of trust in Sam Darnold. I think that pass rush is going to affect him. And I don't know if he's going to be seeing ghosts again on a Monday night.
Ooh, yeah.
If you know, you know.
Old stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So that's going to wrap it up. We'll be back sometime again this week. Check your notifications. Not exactly sure when we're going to do it, but we will do it, especially if the news breaks. So in the meantime, thank you as always to Chris Perkins, South Florida Sun Sentinel. Catch his fine work at sunsentinel.com, on Twitter, X at Chris Perk. Catch my work on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. You know where to find me. You always find me on social media. So until later, thanks everyone.